Welcome to Martha Runs the World, a podcast with a new take on running, fitness, and all things health-oriented. I'm Martha Hughes, your host, and each week I present a new topic that is of interest to all runners. Hi, and welcome to episode 218 of Martha Runs the World. Thank you so much for joining me. I really appreciate it. Today, I'm talking to Kurt Nelson. He's an author, podcaster, and a behavioral scientist. And he has a new book. It's a journal. It's a very interactive journal, I guess, called the Brain Shift Journal that we're going to talk about. It's really fascinating. I love it, and I can't wait to talk to him about it. So we will spend a lot of time on that. It's a really fun thing that you can put towards running if you want, or just your life. Now, Kurt first joined me in 2020. When did we talk? We talked in August, I believe, or maybe we talked in June, but the episode aired in August. I don't remember what episode it was, but I think it came out in August. And we talked about life during the COVID restrictions and the stress and how we can relieve some of that and how we can work through it. It's a hard time for all of us. I thought it was a really great episode. He's a terrific guest. So when he said he had this book coming out, I said, yeah, please come on the show. I'd love to talk to you about it. So it looks, and I started writing on it. You know what that's about when I talk to him. And I can't wait for that. And I just think this is fabulous. It's a really, really great idea. It's very helpful, interesting, and I hope you enjoy it. And after the interview, don't go anywhere, because I do have a couple things I want to share with you. And I think it's kind of exciting about the direction that I'm taking the podcast and some of the thoughts that I've had. And also, I want to let you know when I'm going to share what's going on with me and my surgery and everything. So don't go anywhere after the interview with Kurt. All right? So here is Kurt Nelson. He is an author, podcaster, behavioral scientist that focuses on performance. Will you welcome to the show, Kurt Nelson? Hi, Kurt. How are you?
I am doing good, Martha. Glad to be back.
Yeah, I know it's been 3 years. Can you believe it?
Time does not seem like it has been that long, but then in other ways it feels like forever. But yeah, it's good to be back here. Thank you for having me.
You're very welcome. I know this is like this will be on the 218th show, so it's been a while.
Oh my gosh.
I know. It's crazy. It's crazy. So yeah, you've been really busy for the last 3 years.
We have been. There's been lots of things going on with the, driving behavior change and helping people, achieve their goals and do all sorts of different things. A lot of lessons from the pandemic, a lot of lessons just from life. So yeah, we're trying to integrate it all and do all sorts of different pieces as we like to say.
I love that. And your podcast, Behavioral Grooves, I really enjoy that. How is that going along?
So we are at like 340 episodes, I
Wow.
think. I'm not positive on exactly where we are. We've recorded more than 340. I know that. I just don't know where we are on actually being published. But yeah, it's going well. We're having fun. And again, we talk with people much smarter than I am who are looking at why people do the things that they do, why they behave the way that they behave, why they think the way that they think. And we try to take those insights, make them, relatable to everyday people and to bring that out. And it's been going and I'm sure you do the same thing. I mean, it's one of the funnest parts of the week for me, always, whenever we get to do an interview. So.
I think that's the key, though, too, is that get people on the show who are smarter, and then you can always learn something.
It's not too hard with me, but there you go. I got a co-host who's a lot smarter than me, so that makes it a little bit more difficult. But yeah, that's good.
Well, you guys really, really do well off each other. You two are terrific hosts.
We in the very beginning, somebody likened us to Quick and Quack of behavioral science. If anybody remembers that old NPR, show, they were brothers, and it kind of sometimes feels like Tim and I are brothers. We're not, but we kind of treat each other in that irrelevant, brotherly way of kind of giving each other grief when we can. So it's all good.
By this point, you spend a lot of time together, so you might as well be.
That is true. Sometimes way too much time together, but we'll let that go. So
yeah, exactly. So how do you keep from feeling overwhelmed with everything that you do?
It's hard, right? And I'm sure many of your listeners, you yourself, I mean, people, we are busy today. We are busier today than we have been from all the research that's out there, for a long time. And we get pulled in so many different directions. And, for myself, we have the podcast. I have a business that I'm running. We're developing products. We have, family. We have all sorts of different pieces. And then you tie into that kind of the anxiety around, health and various different pieces for everything else. And you just can be like swamped through all of that. And one of the things is just trying to put some semblance of order in your life and being able to work through, all right, what are the more important things that I need to focus on? What are the things that I can kind of just let go because they're kind of on autopilot? And then also, what are those things I can let go of because, all right, I know I've been doing this for years and years and years, but I don't need to. And it's kind of understanding what those different areas are in your life and kind of going back and doing reflecting. I've been really getting into some stoic kind of pieces, and that's coming out here, as you can say. It's like control the things you can control and focus on those, and everything else, let it wash off your back. So
that's true. It's like you stop and say, why do I still do this? And why do I find it necessary to do this? And why don't I stop doing this? Because it takes up so much time and it really doesn't mean anything. Just to get into the weeds a little bit, I used to keep track of all the numbers of my episodes on a spreadsheet, on an Excel spreadsheet. After 200 episodes, and I did that once a week, I would check all the numbers and just update this spreadsheet. After 200 episodes, I said, this is taking up too much time. Do I really care? I kind of care, but my podcast host, Buzzsprout, does that, and I can just look on there to see what they are. Do I have to do it myself? That doesn't make any sense to me.
I mean, one of the things that is both great and kind of not so great about the world that we live in today with all the technological advancements and various different things we have is that you can automate a lot of those things that you used to have to do either by entering them in by hand or doing all of those factors, which is fantastic because that, if you can get those nuanced kind of things that, there are things I want to know. I want to know how my podcast is doing. I want to know how different episodes are doing, but I don't have to do that. That is already done for me. It's automated. Or if you can, the calendary kind of things about setting up appointments and various different pieces. All right. I no longer have to do that. People can go out. They can set up an appointment with me, various other aspects, all of those types of things. The more you can do that, the better it is. Technology also has that downside of, sometimes we get so focused in on technology and trying to have a technological approach that, hey, I could have just picked up the phone and called you and we could have discussed this and gotten this finalized in 5-minute phone conversation, but we're going back and forth on email or using this app or whatever it would be. So it's kind of both and you kind of have to really think about what's going to make my life better in the long run. So, yeah.
It's true. It's true. You have to really figure out what's important and what's not. And then what's not important, you have to realize, do I need to do this or not? Do I have to do this today or can it be put off to tomorrow, and take care of what's really important?
And one of the things that, behavioral science tells us is that as human beings in general, we are not very good at anticipating what will make us happy in the future or what will make our lives more meaningful, various different pieces. We are not very good predictors. So what often happens is that we think, oh, I need to do this because this will make my life that much better. when in fact, when you do it, and again, we look at this oftentimes from people saying, oh, I need to get this promotion. And once I get the promotion, I'll be happier. If I got this kind of car, I will, that will make me happier, more satisfied. Or if I, get the new house, or if I lose 100 pounds or whatever that would be. And oftentimes, they can be. Those are things that do lend themselves to happiness in some situations. But oftentimes we over index on those things as opposed to looking at the process, but also just understanding our own personality, that if we actually achieve those things, are we going to be then satisfied, or will we then be just wanting the next thing on the list and the next thing on the list? And so understanding how we do that and what we can do in order to really make sure that we're honing in on the right goals and the right objectives for us, I think that's a really big piece. And as you said, it's like trying to understand, what can I put off tomorrow? What can I have to do today? What are all those things? And when we think about how we maximize our overall happiness and life enjoyment and all of the factors that we look at, it takes some time to figure that out, because we too often make assumptions and we don't think about it, and we don't put the effort into going, will that really make my life better? Is this really enhancing what I'm doing on a day in and day out basis? So
it's true. And I really think that what you're saying is a lot what runners go through, is that many times a runner will not see the forest for the trees. They'll look at the race rather than look at the training. Now, I'm not one of those, because I don't really like racing very much. I get a lot of anxiety towards racing, and I don't enjoy racing as much as I like the training. I love the training towards race. I need a race to keep me focused, but I don't necessarily like the race as much as I like the training up to the race. A lot of people don't like the training. They like the race, so that when they finish a race or something like that, they feel let down unless they have another race. Yeah. So they're always chasing another race and another race and another race, instead of enjoying the process getting to the race as much as they should. So it's something that we all have to deal with.
And again, for some people, that kind of going from race to race to race might be enough for them. But for the vast majority of people, and this is beyond even racing and running and various different pieces, is if you don't enjoy the process to get to the ends, that outcome that you're looking for, and the process is horrible, they're let down. And that has been over and over in the research. And so what we always try to do when we're working with different individuals or organizations and kind of saying that is, how do you enhance people's enjoyment, or at least meaning around the process to get there, right? So how do you reframe what they're doing in the moment that they need to do, that those steps to that end result? So as you said, I use a race because it makes sure that I get out and do the running that I enjoy. And you go, well, why do you need a race to do that? Well, sometimes we do. We need that extra incentive, that extra kind of push, because it's really easy for humans to just kind of go, oh, it's raining out today. I don't need to go out and do that today. But no, if there's a race coming up, you're going, well, even if it's raining, I got to get out there because I don't want to, have that race and be not prepared for it. So there's extra incentives, extra motivation that comes from that. But when we look at how people operate, those people who do this long term are the ones who figure out a way, even if that the process itself isn't necessarily what people would consider to be fun, or it's kind of more of a work for them. But if they can somehow reframe that, rethink about how their mindset is around it, to having some sort of meaning or adding some sort of value to it, and looking for those moments within that run, that practice part of it, that will give them joy, give them a sense of fulfillment, realign with who they are as an individual. So this is the type of person I am, and therefore this is what I do, and this is reinforcing that. All of those types of things go to ensuring that routine, that habit, that practice is reinforced, and thus happens much more and more easily over the long run. So
true. Very, very true. Now you have your project that you got in touch with me on. It's called the Brain Shift Journal. How did that come about?
So one of the things that we and my team, we realized is that we do. So the company that I have is called the Lantern Group, and we focus in on business to business type of work. And we apply behavioral science into organizations around employee engagement, employee motivation, and a variety of other things like setting goals. How do you set goals, and how do you ensure that the goals that people are setting and doing, get achieved in various different aspects? So we apply behavioral science in there. And then from the podcast that we talked about, we're interviewing all of these, world-renowned researchers and practitioners in behavioral science, some Nobel laureates and others who are bringing in these great insights. And what we realized is that, what we don't have is we haven't really focused in on bringing some of those insights to kind of just the everyday person. If you're not in a company that we're working with, you're not going to get some of those tools and insights that we have. And so we said, how can we do this? And so we started doing a variety of different pieces. And when we realized, it's like, all right, how do we drive behavior change? So if somebody wants to achieve a goal, they have a goal that they're trying to set out. What are some of the things we know from behavioral science that can really impact them? And we were looking at, all right, to do that, we know we need consistency. We know we need to ensure that people are, again, setting the appropriate goals for themselves. We need to know that people have elements of daily motivation and daily kind of activities that they're going to be doing in order to achieve most goals. Again, not every single goal is that. And what we ended up with is saying, journals, the daily guided journal is one of those things. So we looked out there and said, is anybody doing this? And there are lots of journals out there. There are lots of those daily guided journals. And some of them have some really interesting pieces. But what we realized is they weren't built based on a behavioral science understanding. All right. If we're trying to drive behavior change, if we're trying to drive goal achievement that I set for myself, we know some things, and we didn't see that out there. And so we said, let's build this. And of course, we fall prey to our own kind of things. We started this a year and a half ago, and we're going, we'll get this out in 2022 or 2021. And, we just got it out at the end of 2022 after a year and a half of research and kind of changing things and really digging into all of this. But it's been really fun, and it's been really, rewarding as we've done this.
It's a remarkable, publication. It can be, do you see this as a personal or a professional journal, or both, or either?
It can be both. And so right now we have volume 1, which is about habits and goals. And so the way that we've set this up is that it's a 13-week journal. So it's a quarter. Mm-hmm. And you identify what we have, called keystone goals, which is those goals that are going to make the biggest impact on your life. And again, as we talked about the happiness aspect of this, we go into, making sure that you're, more likely to pick the right goals. We give different hints and insights on how you can pick those goals and how you need to do those, and then break those goals down into weekly kind of areas that you do. But each week we also bring in a behavioral science principle that you can apply. And we have different prompts during each day of the week that will help you achieve the goals you have, but also how do I apply some of that behavioral science that we just talked about this week into what I'm doing? And then we bring in other factors that we know are going to help people achieve their goals. We do different pieces like every day has a prompt to how I want to show up. We know that mindset, even if it's as simple as I want to be bold today. I want to be kind today. And just writing that down actually rewires our brain so that we're more likely to do that. It's not a silver bullet. It's not going to say, by just writing this down every morning, it's going to happen. But by doing that, you are kind of activating those neural networks within your brain so that when that opportunity comes up to be bold or to be kind, you're more likely to do that. And then, that's just one piece. And then we have basically every day has 4 to 5 prompts, about different things to ask you. One of those is always on gratitude. One is just a reflection one, what's going on in your life. Those have been shown to help reduce stress, to have you have a different framework for how you're looking at the world, various different pieces that will, help you get even better sleep, a variety of different pieces, but it's built based on this behavioral science kind of framework, and it's a lens that we look at. And so it's been really fun to build this and to tap into that. And we're always, we've already gone in the second printing of the book. We've already made some alterations and changes, and we're looking to continue to improve and add different, volumes that will be focused in on different behavioral science pieces. But again, the ultimate tool here is saying, how can I, as an individual, if I have an objective that I want to achieve, how can I go about doing that in the most effective way and have a tool that can help me do that, particularly if it's something that is going to be a daily type practice that you're going to have to do. So as you're talking, running and various different things, if you have a race that you're coming up to and you need some help in making sure that you're going out and doing those practices and maybe figuring out how can I enjoy those practices? What are the roadblocks that are going to come up that may impede me from practicing on a regular basis? What are the ways that I can utilize different kind of mindsets and various different things to make sure that I am maximizing the impact that my training has? This is a guide that can help you put that into action and make that happen.
I love that this can also be used as a running journal. It's so flexible. You could put in your workouts and use it that way. It's whatever you want to make it is what it can be, really. I love it.
Yeah. I mean, and we kept it pretty broad on purpose. There was an intention, and, the eventual design as we're looking at this is there will be a family of these different journals. The vast majority of them will be broad, but some will be very specific. So one of them, again, we work a lot with businesses. So we're going to, probably the third one that we produce will be for managers. And so if you're a new manager or a manager within your work, or you have lead people at any time, it'll be in there about, hey, here's a journal that will help you in leading people and kind of looking at, how do I engage and motivate those people? Again, that's some of the work that we do. And so we have great insights on that, but also how do I keep myself motivated? How do I overcome difficult and have difficult conversations? So those will be things that'll be coming out. But again, to your point, eventually we could do a running journal. We could build in the behavioral science that goes even deeper into understanding the psychology behind what is it going to take me to make sure that I am going out there and doing what I need to do every day in order to get better or to run the race or whatever it is that I'm trying to achieve in my running kind of performance.
One word that comes up a lot is keystone, keystone goals, keystone habits. What makes something a keystone?
Yeah, so that actually, it comes from this idea of keystone habits, and keystone habits have been researched. And so those are those habits that when you do them, they actually impact a broader perspective of your life. So for instance, exercise is an actual keystone habit. If you go out and you are exercising on a regular basis, we know that exercise has great impact on how well you sleep. It helps in your clarity of thinking. It helps in overall health. It helps in energy levels across the board. So it isn't just about exercising in and of itself. It is about exercising is great, but it also has all these ancillary impacts. And so when we think about keystone goals, what we're looking at is, what are those goals in your life that are going to make a big, not just like getting the new car? I mean, that could be one. You could probably think about that. But what are those aspects you want to achieve in your life that will then have these ancillary enhancements to ensure that you that it isn't just about getting a promotion, but your promotion. And then with that, you, have, more prestige, and you might, from there, you might be able to impact more people's lives. And from there, you might have the element of being able to make a change in the organization that you think is going to be beneficial long term. All of those factors, kind of, as we think about Keystone, that's what those are. And it comes from that idea of there's a keystone block within an arch, and it's that middle piece in an arch that keeps the entire arch up. And so those are what we're looking at when we talk about keystone elements.
And so you keep them to like 3. Three should be the max that a person should have.
Yeah. And actually as we're looking at this, we're kind of going, oh, maybe we should even bring it down to 2, again, from some of the research. But, the idea is that you can't, if we push our focus in too many disparate ways. And it's not saying that you can't have milestones or other goals within a quarter, within a 3-month period, but it's just saying, hey, from the big ones that we want you to focus in on, that you really know, then we want to limit the amount that you are actually doing, because otherwise you get pulled in way too many ways. And as we talked about at the very beginning, right? The world is continually increasing in speed and busyness, and there's just too much to do every single day. And then we need to make sure that we're focusing on those things that are really important for us.
That's true. Yeah. Yeah. It can be way too distracting to have too many things pushing you off in different directions.
Well, and I would love, I got ideas and different facets, and we got a bunch of those. And it's like, my team always like, Kurt, just calm down. We'll get to it. What about this? What about this? And it's like, oh, calm down, Kurt. We'll get to it. It's fine. So, and that's true. And we often need help in doing that. Right. So.
Yeah. So it's like, so which one do you want to focus on first? Yeah. Then we get to the others. All right. So being thankful is really important, and it's always good reminder, especially when things go wrong or everything goes wrong. It's good to be thankful even of one thing.
Yeah. There's a lot of research, actually a significant amount of research on thankfulness, gratitude, those types of pieces. And what is very, very interesting about this research is that they've shown that even just simple reflection on gratitude. So there's a lot of gratitude journals out there. And so even if you don't buy the BrainShift journal and you're thinking about, hey, what can I do to improve my life? Get a gratitude journal, or just start it. You don't even need to buy it. You can write it down, have a notebook on your own, and just every day start writing down things that you're grateful for. Because what that does, and this is really, I think, the interesting piece of this, is they've shown that it starts to rewire some of our neural networks. And so if I know that I am looking for things to be grateful for, pretty soon my brain starts to pick up on that. And that says, oh, now during the day, my brain is actively looking for those things, where before, if they happened and I might not notice it. I might not, think about it in that manner. But now, because I know I'm going to be writing this down and I need to come up with 2 or 3 of those every night, that is an important piece. And so it switches how we look at the world. And all of a sudden we're looking at things that are positive in our lives. And that positive change, has, again, it's a keystone impact. It has multitude of different elements. We get less anxiety. We have greater, happiness overall. We value, and a lot of times, most of those gratitude things that we look at are about our connections with other people. And so we value our friendships more. We value our significant others, our spouses, different pieces. It changes the way that we think about them. And one of the things that we do in BrainShift that, again, is slightly different than many others is we knew that just asking people to be, all right, write down your 2 or 3 things that you're grateful for today can become kind of monotonous, right? Over time and various different pieces. It's like, oh, what am I grateful? I'm grateful again that I live in a nice house, and it kind of becomes repetitive. And so what we do is we have every day of the week. And again, this is repeated week over week, but every day of the week, we ask a different prompt about that. And so some of those prompts are focusing in on, what am I grateful for? Just that. some of them are focused in on, hey, what would my life be like if I didn't have this person or this thing in my life?
I was going to ask you about that.
Yeah, it's kind of what's the Christmas, George Bailey, right? George Bailey in A Wonderful Life, right? And he wished if I was never here, and then the impact that would have. It's a different twist. It's a different way of kind of looking at that. And one of the other things that we did in this is also, in one of those prompts, is about what have you done that somebody else would be grateful for? And again, the research on that is really impactful, because that starts again shifting not what I'm grateful for, but what am I doing that somebody else will be grateful for? And again, we base all of the kind of, some of the little things that we have in here seem really minor and various different things, but they're all based on some scientific element that we're knowing that this is what drives behavior and better life and better outcomes. And so but that change of switching from what am I grateful for to what somebody would be grateful for me about, again, allows our brain to start processing things differently. And we tend to be really, when we realize what we've done has a positive impact on somebody else, it's a variety of different kind of neurochemicals happen. Oxytocin is one of those, and we get kind of a rush, and it is a really beneficial piece for us overall. So those are factors that we look at.
Yeah. Yeah. So that question, what if I didn't have, how would that impact my life? How did you answer that?
So again, it's, you kind of look at that, and I, thinking about, what if I didn't have my spouse in my life, my wife, what would I do? What if I had never gone and gotten my MBA or my PhD? What if, I didn't have my children in my life? What if I didn't have that first
What's the
job?
answer though? What's the answer though?
Well, most of them are like that. My life wouldn't be what it is today. And I would have, been, probably less off. Now, in some instances, people will respond to that and they will go, my life would have been better if I didn't have this in my life, right? If that wouldn't have happened. Right. And that can be beneficial as well, because it kind of shows, all right, what are those things? And if you can see a pattern with some of those things, like, oh, if I wouldn't have this friend, if I wouldn't have this, oh yeah, my life would have been better because we wouldn't have done this X or Y. And it's like, oh, maybe I'm not so good at choosing my friends, or other factors around that can lead to insight for everybody. And that's it. Although I will have to say, again, when we think about our lives, and there's been some really interesting research on this, like people who have gone through traumatic instances, there's PSTD, right? So you go through a traumatic and for many people that is really hard, and they can't overcome that. And there's lots of issues that happen with that. But what's been really interesting research is that other people go through the same or similar traumatic types of events, and what they call it's post-traumatic growth. And there's been a whole line of research on this that says, people who have lost limbs, people who have, lost loved ones in various different pieces, but because of that traumatic experience, they've realized some things about themselves, or charted a new path for their life. And they will look back. I mean, there are people who would say, yeah, I lost my limb in this accident, but I would not go back. I don't want that back, because I've realized that the person I was isn't the person that I have become. And I wouldn't have gotten here if that event wouldn't have happened. And that's pretty amazing when you think about that. So even the most traumatic, some of the worst things in our lives, and I'm not saying that everybody goes through that. No, most people are actually neutral. But then you get people who grow from those instances, and people who actually have the traumatic kind of thing. And so it's a continuum. And one, you can't say you're a better person because you experienced traumatic growth versus you have this. That's not saying that, you're somehow failing. It's part of who we are as humans. And if you have a traumatic thing and you need help, get that help. But you can also, if you're kind of in that neutral piece, you can frame it different, and all of a sudden hey, maybe I did grow from this, and maybe there are some positive aspects I can take out of that. So
Yeah, exactly. So you are working on volume 2 then, as we speak. Wow.
Yes, we actually, volume 2 is, almost done. So again, I go back to that whole year and a half of, we worked on this. The initial idea was to have this be a year-long journal. It's a printed journal. And when we realized how big it would be bigger than the encyclopedia, right, that you carry around, or a big textbook. And we're going, that's not what we want.
Yeah.
And so we decided, oh, well, we need to cut it down. We tried a half a year, and even that, it's like, oh no, that's still too big. So we ended up kind of going quarter over quarter. And so we had actually developed out the content for an entire year for the 95% of was already done. So volume 2 and volume 3, most of the content is there. Now it just goes into, we have obviously graphics and other pieces that go into this. And so we just have to take that and formulate that out. So that's where we are, knock on wood, that volume 2 will be out in 3 to 4 months. And then volume 3 will be out a few months after that. So
I think 13 weeks is a nice amount, because I think most people would not want to do a whole year. I mean, I think 13 weeks is doable, and they're saying, oh my God, I have to do this for a whole year, but I think 13 weeks is something that you feel good about finishing, and it doesn't feel overwhelming.
Well, and again, you bring up a really good point. One of the things, and maybe this is rationalization afterwards, which we as humans tend to do as well. But when we looked at the research, we know from goal theory, shorter term goals actually have more motivational power than long-term goals because of some of the nuances, right? We're excited when we start at a goal, and then we get excited again when we get close to the finish line. Runners, you guys know this, right? At the beginning of a race, right? You're kind of all pumped. You got that excitement. You're going, and then there's what's called the problem of the middle. And the problem of the middle is that, all right, we've lost that initial kind of rush of kind of doing what we want. And we haven't yet gotten to that, like there's the finish line is coming up, and now I'm going to get there. And we get a lull in motivation. And so the shorter that we can have, it decreases the amount of time that's in the middle. And we can also set milestones within there to help various different pieces around that. And so it works out better. It's always interesting when we do that. And, that whole concept came from actually probably 70 or 80 years ago with, experiments with rats in mazes. So not to equate people with rats, but they actually, measured how fast rats were moving through a maze, that they knew there was some kind of food or some element at the end. And at the beginning, they started off fast, and in the middle, they slowed down. And when they got to the end, they sped up again. And so actually looking at their rate of progress through the maze, and it's translated into people as well. When we look at this in most goal-oriented kind of pursuits, there is this slowdown or lack of motivation, or decreased motivation, I should say, in the middle.
They should study ultra runners, because we're kind of crazy, because we're out there for hours at a time. So you have to find your motivation for hours.
Which is a good question. How do you do that? I mean, when you do that, are you looking at, are you finding like shorter terms, like I need to get this next mile, or I need to that stop sign up there, or how are you? I mean, it's just an interesting question. I'll ask you the question.
Sometimes it just really depends, because sometimes the best thing is to go from like aid station to aid station. Like each aid station is like 5 or 6 miles apart. So you say, okay, if I can get myself to the next aid station, get what I need and leave, because you don't want to stay too long, because then you get too comfortable, and then you don't want to leave. But, because they're so friendly and nice and it's warm and everything, but you got to leave, or else you're going to
make it too nice, people. Yeah,
exactly. And beware the chair. You might miss your cutoff time too, and then they take you from the race. But you have to, and if that doesn't work, then you say, okay, the next mile. And if that doesn't work, just say, I'm going to take 10 more steps, and then 10 more steps, and then 10 more steps. You have to find your motivation all kinds of ways, in any way that you can. You just have to push yourself. And sometimes it's painful. It's just that normal wear and tear pain, and you just have to push yourself through it. It's remarkable what some runners do.
I know when
Really
you
is.
think about the kind of, as you said, the pain that you're going through, the wear and tear. It's not, it's not a normal thing that, again, most people would kind of go,
Nope.
oh yeah, I'm going to enjoy that. But what you talked about from your goals, I think is really interesting because the research on that is exactly as you were saying. It's like, all right, I'm going to find that probably the longest distance that I can have as a goal that will make sure that I keep going. That might be the next aid station. It might be, all right, I halfway to that aid station. It might be just down to the end of that block, right? And kind of whatever that would be, 10 steps.
Yeah.
And, it's interesting when we look at those types of goals. There's research in the visual world, that goal gets shortened. It actually, so if I can see the goal line, people misinterpret that it's shorter to where it is than what it actually is. And so those are really interesting pieces as we do it. And it's kind of tricking ourselves and tricking our motivational kind of receptors to say, I can do this. I just have to do this, and I just have to do this. And then and pretty soon, it's like, all right, the race is over. We did it.
Yeah. You have to find your mantra. What do they say in the military? Embrace the suck.
Yeah.
And that works. That works. It does. It works. You have to find your mantra and just keep going. And that may change over time. After my surgery, I'm getting surgery next month. And after that, I'll be able to run longer, and I plan to do the very long distances. And so we'll see how that goes.
Yeah. Well, find a good mantra for you and,
yes.
and stick with it. There you go.
Well, thank you so much. And I wish you the very best in the Brain Shift Journal and Behavioral Grooves and everything, and all of Kurt's links. Okay, think, Martha. All of Kurt's links will be on the website, and everything for that he's involved in, because he's involved in a lot of things, will be there for you to see at martharunstheworld.com. And I really thank you so much for being on the show, Kurt Nelson. Thank you.
Martha, thank you. It was great to be back, and always wonderful to talk to you.
Thanks, Kurt, very, very much. It was fun talking to you. Really, really fun. You are just a joy as a guest. Very, very, very pleasurable to have you on the show. And I am working on my journal. I really am. It's fun. I love filling out this stuff. No, it's just comes naturally. I like this. I just started mine, so I'll keep working on it, let you know how that goes. Okay. I'm not going to give a full report about my surgery and how it's coming, because I just had my surgery this week. I'm going to give you how everything's going in a couple of weeks. I have another interview that I'm going to put out next week that I did before pre-surgery. So that's going to come out next week. It's a really, really cool interview with a great runner. He's really remarkable. He's very inspirational, and I know you're going to like it. Then after that, I'm going to put out my interview of how my rehab is going and what happened in surgery and how all that is coming along. But I also want to I will talk more in depth about this, but I'm going to just change a little bit about the direction of the show. I'm not going to have as many guests. And like I said, I'll get more into why I'm not going to have as many, but I'm just not going to go out and look for guests like I used to. If they seem to fit the bill, great. But I don't just want to have guests on just because it's a guest. There's a few reasons for that, and I'll give the reasons for doing that, for changing the focus a little bit in that episode. It just seemed like the natural direction to take my show is to do something different rather than just have on guests that don't really even fit the show. And like I said, I will get more into more detail and more explanation in a couple weeks. But so that is really it. I'm so happy that the surgery is over. I'm in pain right now, and life is not hard. I've forgotten how hard little things are, like picking stuff off the ground, which I can't do. I have to use one of those little picker-upper things to pick stuff up off the ground. And putting on leggings, oh my gosh, it's a major, major chore. I'm tired after I do that. Oh boy. And showers. Oh, it's another thing. Another thing. Now, don't forget that I do put out a blog every Thursday on the website, MarthaRunsTheWorld.com. I'm going to start making videos, yes, at least once a month. I know not very often, but I'm going to try to do that at least once a month, and that will come out probably the first of the week in that month. So I'm going to start doing that. I'm going to start doing more of that stuff and being more active in that so you get more content from me. And if I can get a couple more Patreon patrons, I will start putting extra episodes in the Patreon. But I don't have enough now for it to be worthwhile, so if I get a couple more, I'll start doing that. All right, so everything is on the website, MarthaRunsTheWorld.com. If you want to email me, it's MarthaRunsTheWorld@gmail.com. And thank you so much. You are amazing, amazing listeners. Keep doing what you do, and until next week, let's tie up our shoelaces and go for a run.